What's up, our friends, our fam, our testing normal crew? Welcome back to episode Buck 14.
Buck 14. Isn't that crazy? It's wild.
I love it. I
From
love
the
it.
garage to
Makes me
the
happy.
internet.
Lots of good conversations, lots of good people with interesting opinions for sure. And we love every one of them. So tonight, if you guys have any opinions or insight, hit that little comment tab there. Say what you need to say. If we have time, we will definitely address it.
Yep.
Um, First of all, a little bit of a moment of recognition for the terrible and major bummer situation that took place for that Gabby Petito girl out of Florida, right? And obviously, we don't know all the circumstances around the death, but it was ruled a homicide, right?
And
Just
they
today,
raided her, what was her boyfriend's parents' house, and he's still at
right?
large.
Yep,
And
raided her
there's
boyfriend's
more and more
parents'
stuff coming
house.
out that stuff was going on, hostile relationship.
Yeah.
I do
Um,
find it sad. I mean, it's a sad situation for sure, and I know a lot more people followed her than others, but it's sad that that gets so much attention, but other people's don't. I always think of that
like,
when it's like
well, because
famous
she
people.
was. Oh, I got. Or like, you mean missing people? There's some missing people that don't get attention.
Like she's getting so much attention because of an or alleged abusive relationship with somebody who was being toxic. I mean, there's more and more of that information coming out. We don't know
Mhm.
until they figure it out. But that her situation gets so much attention, everyone's looking for her and everything. But if it happened to like someone on your street, it's not going to get that kind of attention, like nationwide, like hers has.
Because she has that social media
Right.
presence. Is that what you're
Hmm.
going towards? Okay.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the more you make yourself out there and known, of course, you're going to have more engagement in that area. But
Right. I'm not saying
but
it's bad.
it's
I'm not.
it's
I'm not.
it's
I'm not
it's
saying don't
it
do
is
it.
fascinating though that this case in particular has kind of shown the power of social media and the fact that it was basically social media that broke the news
Hmm.
of the basically where to search to find her,
Right.
because they had no basically groundwork for where to search until that one guy who was also a blogger, vlogger, or whatever, saw a picture from something he was posting in of that van in like this
Mm.
like kind of wooded area. And so then he notified the police. He said, hey,
Right.
this van kind of looks similar. It was in the Tetons National Forest area. And then that facilitated the search in that region.
Right.
um, but it's almost like we're getting to this kind of um, synergistic or this connective degree of 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 utilization through social media and through the internet that is almost like this eye in the sky,
Hmm.
but it's not necessarily centralized. I guess in some ways it is, but it's like we're so connected now that it's facilitating this type of manhunts and or body hunts.
Yeah.
It's a
It is
really
weird.
wild.
It's gonna be scary because they don't always get like the herd doesn't always get it right. Right.
True.
So like we've seen that happen with like police officers who were later on found to be fine when you see the whole video, but people see part of it and they're like, oh my gosh, this guy's a horrible person and his life is wrecked.
Right. Right.
And the herd gets it wrong. And so it can be dangerous too because the court of public opinions is often not
Yeah.
right and they jump to conclusions and they're also like mob mentality. So it's like
For
they're just
sure.
like it's like a riot. Like one person starts it and then everyone's like, that's what we're supposed to do, and then they before you know it.
Yeah, there's definitely a double-edged sword to social media platforms and the masses.
Right.
But in this case, it wasn't necessarily opinion based as much as it was just the utilization of the masses
Yeah.
to find something.
Well, see,
Um,
but I guess I would push back. Like at this point, it looks like something was going on with the boyfriend, right? But that's what the
mhm.
small amounts of evidence we have points to. And he's clearly hiding, so that doesn't make him look any better, although it might just be out of fear. And maybe he didn't do anything, but maybe he did. So
That's an interesting situation.
yeah, Amador
It's
says to it. Actually, that was quick. You just like made a comment about something I was saying that was almost live. He It's not showing up on here.
I'll read it up. I'll read it up while you post it.
Oh, here it is.
There you
It
go.
was obvious
He
he did it,
said,
but I was kind of hoping it happened in the dead zone of Yellowstone just to see how that played out in court.
"Oh, what is this dead zone? I'm not
Yeah,
sure
wow,
about this.
I'm curious what that is too. Is it
Is
like
this some type of like like
demilitarized
not
zone?
well, or like it's a not part of the nation and anything that happens in that area goes
Yeah.
or something like
If
that?"
you do it there, it's okay. It's kind of like being at sea, like you're out of country.
I was thinking about like this situation of, and I'm not, obviously, I'm not posting my opinion. I don't know exactly what
Yeah,
happened.
I don't know.
The
That's why I
evidence is
was
definitely,
going both
the
ways with it.
evidence thus far is not looking great for him, right? Like there's nothing that's looking positive towards his case. Let me just say that, okay?
No,
But in
it's
the
like
back of
what
my head,
Jeff
hold on,
Mack
hold on,
just said.
let me
When
finish.
you leave and go home and lawyer up, he did it. Like that's
Right. It
it. It
doesn't
does
look
make it
great,
look that
right?
way. Yeah, obviously.
But I was kind of thinking in the back of my head, like, what if this is a situation where this girl and this guy, they were out in the Tetons and they came across some type of like nefarious activity and they were involved in it as well. And it was like, hey, listen, you carried these 20 bags of cocaine to the Tetons. We're going to hand them off to this crew, and it went bad. She got killed. He ran away, but he doesn't want to admit to anything because he was guilty of also carrying 100 kilos of cocaine. And so now they're in this like he's like in this situation where she got murdered, but also I'm what's it called
Implicated.
implicated as well. But I had 100 kilos of cocaine, and so I'm not willing to admit to anything. So I'm not going to say anything. I mean, I guess that's probably giving him more credit than what is
Yeah, I
true.
don't think
I
it's
don't
that
know. I
complicated,
don't
but
know.
it's
But what if it
you're
was
doing
something
what I
crazy
did,
like
which is give him the benefit, right? So like we don't know what Amador is saying, what Jeff is saying is right. It does sound and it looks real bad. Like I would say on the outside, my gut instinct is the dude did it, right? Like, but I don't know. Like I'm not the judge in this. I don't have all that evidence. I just have what I see on social media. He said in answer to the dead zone, it's where you can murder someone and basically get away with it. So apparently there's a spot in Yellowstone where you get to go murder people.
well, maybe it's just like there's no reception. It's like a um, or where a
Oh,
lot of people have been killed, probably something like that.
it's a 50
Um,
square mile zone in between 3 states, is what he says. Hmm,
oh, okay. So I'm looking this up on I young Jamie this real quick. So
sweet.
the zone of death is what it's called, and it's given the name the 50 square mile, and it's an Idaho section of Yellowstone National Park. So it's an Idaho section in which,
Hmm.
as a result of a purported loophole in the Constitution, a criminal could theoretically avoid prosecution from a major crime, up to and including murder if it happened within that specific
So
region.
that's why he was saying he kind of hoped it would happen in that spot because he wants to know what would happen. Is this what the show Yellowstone is based on? I keep hearing that I should watch this show and that it's really really good. And people keep asking me, "Have you watched it yet? Have you watched it yet?" And I have not. But is that what that's about? Maybe people could tell me and like
Okay, I'm gonna read the loophole real
give me
quick to you guys.
reasons
This
why
is what
I
the
should watch the
loophole
show.
This is what the loophole says. It says the United States District Court of the, or for the District of Wyoming is currently the only United States District Court to have jurisdiction over parts of multiple states. This is because its jurisdiction includes all of Yellowstone, which extends slightly beyond Wyoming into Idaho and Montana. In addition, the federal government has exclusive jurisdiction over the park, so crimes committed in the park cannot be prosecuted under any state laws. So it seems like it still would be a federal crime.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
it doesn't like
yeah,
make murder magically okay. It just seems like
right,
maybe they would have less resources to pin it on you or something.
right, yeah,
I,
yeah. It's strange.
this feel
But
I feel
anyways, all
like I
that
feel
being
like
said,
we broke into like the podcast that teaches you how to like pull off the perfect crime or the perfect murder or something. Like we're not condoning that people go out and do this. I don't think, are we?
I mean, I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying there's a dead zone. Amador pointed it out, and
Is
what
murder
happens
a
happens.
federal crime?
Is murder a federal crime?
Pretty
Yeah,
confident. I'm
I
pretty
think because you can have
confident it is.
federal. Yeah, that's where like federal death. I think there's a federal death penalty.
I don't.
Um,
I'm a billion% confident that murder is a federal crime.
I just
Oh.
looked it up. It's okay. I'm looking it up right now. Uh, Under certain circumstances, murder can be filed by prosecutors as a federal crime. However, under certain circumstances, murder becomes a federal matter, and those cases are tried in federal court. So yeah,
Yeah,
it can be both state and federal
right.
murder.
That
Chris
would be
Chris
very
Barth actually,
confusing. What if
who
they had to
is
like? They're like,
would
well,
know
because
about
it was
this.
between these in this zone, we have to hold the hearing in this spot.
Right.
That
Right.
would be
And it's
funny.
a little tricky when that happens. And I think that's the case with this Wyoming situation is because part of that occurs in a federal area, but then also like part of it could be considered in the native tribal area. And
Right.
so then you would have to hold the court um in the tribal court, I guess, or something along those lines.
So speaking of these volcano areas, did you
Yeah.
see this volcano? Did I send this to you? I must have sent it to you during the week.
I
The
did
volcano that's been
see
going off
a volcano
in
go into a pool.
so it's no, this is lava. It's pouring out of La Palma and Spain Canary Islands, and it's so bad that they're getting people off the islands. It hasn't been active for like 1400 years, but
Wow.
it's like going bonkers now. So look at this. Look at this is just footage from it
Whoa.
starting up like they're like going nuts. This is like yeah, I wouldn't want to be near a volcano when it went off. Someone has died at this one. Apparently he was trying to take pictures and he got hit and died. It wasn't during this, it was like in the last years or something like that. So,
Canary Islands are just off of the Western Sahara
look at that.
or Morocco. That's wild, man.
Just nuts.
Well, bananas. Yeah, that's no
Bananas.
good. Speaking of something else that's no good, a topic that has zero relations to
Either of those.
this previous murder
You
case.
can tie it together. No, you have to find a transition.
But I'm gonna say it's really bad as well.
Oh, there we go.
Is have you been hearing what's been going on? Well, there's two big things that's going on with Amazon right now. Two big things.
Right. You've
So
told me some of these.
yes.
It's a little bit
So
weird.
the first one I want to jump on is everybody out there has at one point received a package from an Amazon delivery driver, I'm sure. Or a majority of people have, I would imagine.
Most days,
right?
most people
It's most
get one.
days, right? Most days. It's extremely convenient. It's delightful to be able to order something and say, "Hey, I'm gonna get this tomorrow. I don't even have to drive to the store."
Sometimes it's
and
today.
$5.
Like,
I feel really guilty sometimes. I'm gonna be honest when I order something for $5 or $2 and it comes to me the same day. I'm like, "Oh, this poor
I will
delivery driver.
say,
There's no
I've got
way
I've got
to
an
make money."
unusually steep driveway. You can attest to that. It's not that
Yes, you
bad,
do.
but like trucks don't like it. But for the while in the beginning when I lived here, Amazon drivers, they just would come and they would find the rock at the bottom of my hill that had my numbers on it and then just set the package next to it and take a picture of it and leave. Like by the street.
Hey.
Like it was like 3 feet from the sidewalk, and I have a pretty long driveway for being in the city. And just leave it. I get
That
a
stuff could go
picture,
missing
you know,
pretty
that
easy
says
from
like
that
your
far.
package has been delivered. I'm like, that's like out front. Like now I
That's not even
finally
close.
reported
Let's
it,
be
and
real
they
here.
bring it up to my garage usually, so that's fine.
Well, so Amazon has been implementing a new AI system for their drivers, right?
Right. I
And
don't understand what this
essentially,
does because I've heard about this. So
it's
before, like, what does it do?
it's insane. It's insane.
Did
So
your microphone
what
fall
happens?
again?
Yeah, my microphone's falling. I'm trying to fix it. Sorry, guys. Um, so what's happening right now is they've implemented cameras into the actual cockpits of all these vans, okay? And what happens is it's an AI system that it reports to. These cameras actually send information to this centralized AI system,
Mhm.
and then it judges them. It gives them a score, okay? And it judges off of how many times they've looked to the left, they look to the right. If their eyes don't track looking straight ahead,
What?
the yes, they'll get punished essentially if they have improper head movements, if they have like it's they have actual penalties that can potentially hurt their base pay, but then they're incentivizing them. They're saying, you can get these types of bonuses if you do good, if you drive really effective. So what these events help Amazon basically decide, and they get ratings. They get on these score systems. They get poor, fair, good, or fantastic. And if they get fantastic, they're guaranteed that you'll get these certain bonuses towards, repairs,
What, they
damages
want
of
you
their
just driving
vehicle.
down the road going like this?
Yeah, they don't want you looking left and right. But they're saying is what's happening is these poor Amazon drivers are having to compete with, well, not compete, but like they're having, like, if you make a right hand turn
Right.
or a left hand turn, if you make a left hand turn, these drivers are looking left and right, 3 times to make sure they're not getting hit. But when you do that, it penalizes you. So it's like, well, you have to make a left hand turn occasionally when you're driving as a delivery driver, right?
Right.
And then there's like situations where there's, someone's trying to cut them off, and they have to kind of look and avoid and look where they're merging and all this sort of thing.
I would think that would be
So
good. Like, don't you want an
right,
alert
head on a
driver?
swivel, right?
Right.
Yeah, you'd want your head on a swivel, I would imagine.
You are really struggling
So,
with that microphone. That is, it's
oh, I'm
getting,
just gonna have to hold it.
it's getting
It's
comical at
terrible.
this point.
It's terrible. It's about to fall off. But anyways, so it's a safety. They're calling it, one of the biggest safety improvements. They've said that they've had the company said that they were having a 48% decrease in accidents in their across the U.S. fleet since they implemented this camera system. They've had a stop sign and signal violation of 77% decrease. They've had, following distances improved by 50%. Driving without a seatbelt decreased by 60%. Distracted driving. So all these things are saying that significantly improved
Yes,
the
but here's the thing.
outcomes. But it's like it's
at what
really
cost?
a horrible quality of life.
Like, seriously,
now.
at what cost? Like, you maybe, but are there better ways to do it than this? Like, I mean, we would all see deaths dramatically drop if we lowered our speed limits to 30 miles an hour, but no one's going to do it, right? Because it doesn't,
Right.
like, the numbers don't, like, the risk does not outweigh the rewards, or the rewards, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
there's a certain speed that we go, and there's risks that we take. So yeah, like,
I am
like
for
what
certain degrees of safety measures,
Right.
sure, but also there becomes almost a conflict of interest situation
Yes.
when a driver is so scared to look to the left because they know it's going to compromise their score, and instead they get T-boned, or
Right.
instead they get, like, there's circumstances where it's like, even in jobs, there's jobs where you get scored and it compromises maybe sometimes the best practice or the way you work because you're going for a score rather than what's right.
Well, it's what my aunt said is, did Amazon not hear driver's ed? You're taught to look left and left and right. So I would also say maybe having education or like training would lower these numbers too, and you wouldn't be putting these people at a panic, because I bet there's some other things, these other risk factors that are actually going up that they're just not measuring. And it's just like when bean counters get a hold of metrics, they're like, "Ooh, we can keep playing with these metrics," and then they forget that there's human beings involved, and
Right.
it
Or
just
it's
goes
like
out the
there's
window.
a manager, and the of this company, or a supervisor or a director or somebody, and this was their project, right?
Right.
And so they're wanting to push for it because it looks good on their resume.
Well, it's like,
like if you implement a big change through a company, especially the size of Amazon, this is going to look really good on your resume.
well, see,
at some
AI
point.
doesn't know when to make that call. Like when you did something better, you know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
so that's what happened. Like, we know that AI doesn't, because it's what ran into the person and killed them on the freeway, or the AI in the Tesla saw the side of a truck and the glare of the sun hit it and it thought it was the sky, so it ran the car into the truck. Like, it doesn't know in those situations when to make a good decision even on its own, let alone judge whether or not we're making the right decision. And that's the scary part, is like human decision sometimes far outweighs, because it can take into account more identifiers than AI can, even though a lot of the times it's better.
Yeah.
But there's a ton of
this
times
is kind of
where
an interesting.
we're better.
It's an interesting, like, almost medium transition where Elon Musk had been talking in the past about his concern for AI taking over for human drivers, like especially for semi-truck drivers, right? And this is almost kind of like you're starting to see the transition a little bit of AI not necessarily taking over for the driver, but starting to dictate how the driver interacts with its
Right.
surroundings.
It becomes a
And
competition.
right, yeah, that too, that too. But I had an interesting kind of, I guess you would call it legal situation at work, and I've actually had this happen a couple times now, where I've had Amazon package drivers come in specifically saying, asking for a doctor's note because they don't want these cameras looking at them all day while they're driving because it's causing them stress and anxiety. And so they're requesting notes saying that they don't have to implement these required monitoring programs that Amazon is implementing. And it puts me in this very interesting situation because I 100% agree with the fact that I don't think they should have to be monitored as a delivery driver all day long. Like
Right.
that seems a little bit of an invasion of privacy as well.
Well, you know what's weird
But
is if
it's not
AI
really a
takes
medical
over.
issue where I can.
Yeah, right.
What's
So
that?
what? Yeah, you're like, what do I write that up as? Like that's
I
different.
recommended them to seek legal counsel. I said,
Yeah.
well, I think this is a very interesting situation, and I would not like somebody watching me 24/7 every time I sneeze.
Right.
So, you know, you might want to seek
Well,
legal
especially like it'd be
representation
one thing if
because.
they had a camera because they had a theft problem, right? Because you have that like if you work in a store or something. But when the camera's
Mhm.
judging you, and if the idea is that AI is going to take over, it's kind of like if you had a job and then they brought in the person that they kind of wanted to replace you to see if they could find all the things you were doing wrong and give them reasons why
That's
they
a
would be
good
better at it.
analogy.
And it would
That's
be
a
like,
good
can you
analogy.
imagine having that
Yeah.
person look over your shoulder and be like, well, you're screwing up again. I could do way better at that. Oh,
That's
you know
such a
what?
good
Actually, I'm going to
analogy.
write this down because they gave me the sheet right here and I can judge you and I can get you docked for that and maybe even fired because I want your job. Like,
Mm,
so maybe that's what they're trying to prove is that the
that's
AI judges
fascinating.
them better and makes a better, so they're gathering data to then replace all drivers.
Oh, that's such a good thought process there. Real quick, I just want to say what Amador
Yeah, I
said.
was going to publish that up
He
here.
wanted to go real quick back to the dead zone.
He's really onto this.
He said that the zone of death. He said the argument is there's one civilian living in the area that is required
There's not
to
one.
build. Oh, there's not one civilian that's living in the area which is required to have a jury of your peers. Okay, so if you're going to have a jury of your peers, if nobody's living in that region, how can you be tried for murder?
Yeah, but
Okay.
there's like people like if you say you're well known or something like that, they'll pull peers from other places. I think we all
Right.
kind of count as that. If we went to federal, it'd be like federal grand jury. I don't think it has to be someone in the area. It just has to be citizens that are eligible to be. I don't know. I don't know enough about it. It seems really strange. It seems like the Bermuda Triangle for crimes. Like nobody knows
Right.
yet. And like maybe some stuff has happened there. We just don't know until someone comes out and goes public with it. And sounds like Amador freakishly wanted this guy to have, you know, pulled the
The
curtain
perfect
back
crime.
so that we could see the truth about this
The
area.
perfect
So,
crime.
speaking
Well,
of
Gary
being,
made a good point though, and he says there's enough Bigfoots in the area though that they could be the jury.
you got to find them first, and they're all blurry. So how are you going to get them on
They've been hard
camera?
to find. They've been really hard to find. That's true. That's a good point. Very true.
Oh, he said to the
Well,
what we were talking about. The people are dumb though, and will allow it, just like the insurance companies that want to reward good driving by allowing them to monitor your driving. Heck no, insurance. Got to catch me speeding before you raise my rates. I'm not gonna at you at my life. I don't know. We had a kid that just got a license, and they have an app that while they're learning to drive, it like tests like how much they steer and everything. They don't have to. He doesn't have to run all the time now, but while he was learning, and when he earned a good enough score, it gave us a good percentage off of our insurance. But he doesn't have to keep using it. If I had to keep using it all the time, that'd be stupid. I'd say no to that.
how long did he have to use it for?
Just while I had his permit,
Oh,
when he
okay.
would like train and
So
stuff.
you would like turn it on when he was driving.
Yeah, he had it on his phone, and you pull it up, open it, and then you set the phone like in a flat place, and it measures like stopping and starting and steering and speed and all
Oh,
that.
interesting. That's
So
cool.
speaking of being
Um,
monitored, I
well,
wanted
I
to.
have something else with Amazon though.
Oh yeah, with Amazon. Keep going. We'll go back into
Kind of
monitored
interesting
then.
with Amazon. So Amazon, on the flip side, they did something that was, I think, actually pretty good for its workers, and they now have barred or stopped the requirement of certain drug screening activities
Mhm.
for their company, and they're reinstating employees that were previously banned or let go because of cannabis usage.
Do you think
And
I have a theory on this?
so here's the thing. Yes, yes, I'm gonna go with this
Yeah.
too. But so here's the thing. Like I just in general, I think the war on drugs has just been my personal stance is I think it's been horribly ineffective, and the approaches to it have caused far more harm than good, in my personal opinion and experiences of things that I've seen personally. But in this situation with Amazon, it's interesting because they're also lobbying for it to then become federally legal. So the company's actually starting to spend money to lobby for it to be federally legal.
I think it should be. I'm not I'm not saying that they shouldn't do that. I would agree with you on the war on drugs. I think that what you're not saying is that you would want like cartels and stuff to be bringing in illicit substances that allow people to
Exactly.
continue in
No, no.
that life. But
It
yes,
should
I would
be
agree
it should be
that a
regulated.
lot they should either be regulated and or they should, instead of wrecking like smaller people's lives and like filling our prisons with them, go after the larger
Yes.
people,
Right.
and
Making
then
basically slave labor.
offer more help. I don't know that
Yep.
legalizing everything and anything like they did in Oregon was maybe the greatest idea. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know the
I
metrics
think
on it.
well, it's not that they legalized it, they decriminalized it.
True, that's true.
And I think there's a big difference
Yeah,
there.
and I think I would more so side with that than just saying, okay, it's all legal. Like, I think
There's a big
that
difference.
might be a dangerous
Right.
path to go down. But to get people help
But
is different
for
than,
Amazon,
yeah, for
I have
Amazon.
a theory
Yeah, I want to hear your
about
theory because I
this.
wonder if it's similar to mine.
Well, probably maybe. So the fact that the company is lobbying now for it to be federally legalized, and that they're saying, for our employees, they're going to be eligible. We're not going to screen. We're
Mm-hmm.
not even going to test for this type of substance anymore. I think Amazon's trying to make money in the cannabis game. I think
Oh, I
that
don't think
will
that's it.
eventually.
Maybe.
I think they eventually will start distributing it too. I think
I
they're
mean, I could
seeing
see
the
that, but I
potential
don't.
huge market for it, and they know they have the 2-day delivery system already established in a lot of areas.
Maybe.
I think they're going to get
Although
on
I
it.
would say, like, pushback to that is a lot of people thought that in these states that legalized it, and it wasn't as booming of a business as they had thought, and a lot of people.
Well, because of the federal regulations.
Yeah,
That's the
maybe
kick.
that's it. I think why they're doing it is because they're testing for it in states, and I think that companies should stop testing for it. They should treat it. Yeah, can you imagine that they become the drug dealers? There's a drug delivery people.
They'd be great at
Um, that I think that they should treat it like alcohol. Like you shouldn't be on it while you're obviously driving an Amazon car. Maybe that's why they're putting AI in there if they're trying to
Oh yeah,
legalize
yeah.
it.
I don't think they're not
No, no,
pushing
no.
for it to be
That was a
used.
joke. Like maybe they're
Oh,
trying
okay.
to see if they're like lighting one up and like the AI is like,
Oh,
like
I
you just.
gotcha. Gotcha.
But I would say we have a shortage of people that either want to work, and we have a lot of people that they can't pull from that maybe would pop hot. And so they're saying as a company,
Oh,
let's
I
widen
see.
our swath here a little bit because these aren't bad workers. We will decriminalize it, quote unquote, for us as a company and stop testing for it because we already can't find enough people to do what we need to do.
That's a great point. Yeah, there's some definitely larger pool of individuals that they've eliminated and or excluded because of that. So that's a really good point. You know what else they would do benefit from, and I don't know if Amazon does this already, but creating opportunities for non-violent felons
Mm,
to have jobs, and that is a huge part of rehabilitation to be able to just get a job.
right,
That might be something that Amazon. I don't know if Amazon allows that or not, but that would be another area where they could get a big pool of
right.
individuals potentially as well.
Well, maybe that's where the
Interesting.
monitoring, they're getting all that fired up. They're like, well, they're nonviolent. They might steal things. We'll make sure that they won't with our AI. So we can hire all these people to come out and we can get them real cheap. Um,
Oh my gosh.
So speaking
Oh
of
my
being
gosh.
monitored, though, I do want to talk about this for a second because I don't know a lot of information yet. But for those of you who have heard us talk about cryptocurrency, and we talked a little bit about it when with the deflationary stuff that we talked about and stuff. But this last week, Coinbase, which is one of the largest, they bought GDAX, which is one of the larger exchanges for digital assets as well, but they're one of the most common onboarding for people that are like, hey, I just want to buy some Bitcoin, and you can link your Bitcoin, your bank account to it, and you can buy it and you can hold it.
One of
It's
the most user-friendly
it's one of the most user
trading
friendly and easy
platforms.
ways for people to kind of get familiar with it. Is higher fees because it's way more convenient and whatnot,
Mm.
and you can't do things like set like I want to buy it at this price when it goes to that price or whatever. But they signed a deal this week with Homeland Security, and they already had with ICE as well, to basically provide financial analytics to the government. And they get this contract amount is for $455,000 up to $1.37 million paid to them
Fascinating.
by 2024 to provide financial information to them. This came out the same week that they're trying to ram through the infrastructure bill as well, that any bank account that has over $600 worth of funds go through it in a year must be reported to the IRS.
Right.
So it's like they're just
Which is
really
wild.
trying to ratchet down on where people's money is at, because they're like,
They want to know where
we
everybody's
want to know
money's
where it's
at
at
all
because
times.
we need more of it because we keep spending way too much of it. They
Right.
didn't say that
Yeah.
part, but I know that part.
It's implied.
Yes.
It's implied.
So it's like
So
oh my gosh, now they're just monitoring these
this gets
accounts.
a little bit deeper maybe for those people that aren't involved in crypto as much,
Hmm.
but I wonder if this will help facilitate Coinbase to be able to start trading XRP now or Ripple if they have these contracts with the
That doesn't
government
that
already.
doesn't that has to do more with the Security and Exchange Commission than it does anything else. For those of you that want to know more about that, you can message me because it would be extremely boring and we'd lose all of our viewers if we started talking about that. But
But I'm just saying,
I
if they
don't
get
know.
in with the feds,
They're already working with the
if
feds, dude. This has just become
right,
public.
more
They
so
already were
Coinbase
working with
like
ICE. So I mean, if you want to compare someone like the
well, but
big banks,
the CEO of Coinbase had that whole big drama with the
he
SEC
did,
just like last
but
week,
he
you
could
know.
say that and make it seem like that and cause the drama to make it
That's
seem
true.
like they're good. So, and that's kind of what I've heard is going
Oh,
on.
really?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
I did want to say we lost someone great this week. Did you hear?
Oh
You
yeah, the
heard about
comedian.
this? Yeah. Norm
Yeah.
Macdonald died this
Hey,
week.
Norm, man.
He died at
So
61. I
sad.
believe he had 9 years pancreatic cancer and had like told nobody. Um,
Right. He'd
and
even been making jokes. He'd been making jokes about like death and all this stuff,
yep,
like all the way up until his death.
yeah, great,
Oh my goodness,
great comedian.
this
Like
guy's a
people have
bold
been
man.
posting up old like videos of his. There's a great one out there. You guys should go look up. Maybe I'll put it in our show notes if I remember, about him telling this joke on Conan O'Brien that was uncomfortably long and awful, and not awful like
What was it? What was it
horrible
about?
or anything. It was a joke that a taxi cab driver told him one time,
Oh, okay.
and it's like
Gotcha.
4.5 minutes long, and you can just tell he's eating up Conan O'Brien's time and just loving making him feel uncomfortable.
Oh, so he's like purposefully trying
Oh, it
to
goes
drag it out
on and
for
on and
Conan.
on, and it's classic Norm Macdonald, and it was like, oh, I already miss him, like already miss his comedy. Go watch Saturday Night Live. The Celebrity Jeopardies when he was on as Burt Reynolds was great.
Oh,
Um,
that was really
he
good.
got
Yeah.
fired from Saturday Night Live because they said he wasn't funny, and then years later they brought him back as a host, and he just made fun of them for saying he wasn't funny, and he was so not funny that they brought him back as a host because he'd done
You
so
know, I'm so
well.
not funny. He
Oh
was a
my
class
gosh.
act, dude. He was a class act.
Yes, he
Um,
was.
real well, yeah. What any other crazy things you wanted to bring up this week? I got one other
I mean,
thing
I've
that's really kind of crazy. I
always
want
have
to
crazy
talk
things to
after.
talk about, but like, I mean, we could the I mean, I don't want to go into detail about it, but the other thing that's just been on my mind a lot this week is the whole crazy border crisis thing. I don't know if you saw the pictures of the people like chasing people off on horses, and they had like 20,000 people living under a bridge, and Texas is basically like has put themselves in lockdown and has put
Right.
all of their people on the in the inn, and it's just been this battle between them and basically the executive branch going against them, and they're like, hey, this is a crisis for us, we can't handle this many people, we've got 20,000 people living under a bridge, people going back and forth, and we need we need help. Like, so they put their National Guard into it. They put like Border Patrol into it. They've got like extra
Has the
law enforcement
government
down
made
there.
any statements on it?
They're basically saying like, oh, they're being awful. They said they were whipping him. Well, the guy that was chasing him on horses, they were mounted Border Patrol. He wasn't whipping them. He was like swinging his reins around, like on the horse. Like it wasn't even a whip. Like they're just making it way more like it's a big deal, but they're dramatizing it in the other direction, saying we should never treat humans like this. And they're like, we can't handle like what's going on. We can't do this. We can't have people in here that aren't vetted. If you really think there's like this pandemic going on, they're not requiring any testing or anything. They're just like allowing them to walk across. And it's like, I'm not concerned about that, but like they're saying like if that's such a
Right.
big deal to you, why is that not even a big deal to you? Like why does that not make it a big deal? And
Well, so
a lot of them
is
aren't Mexican. They're Haitian mostly, Puerto Rican.
right coming from Haiti.
Yeah, and they've now driven most of them back across the river and told them like we're gonna fly you out and drop you off back at your house if you don't leave, like,
Hmm.
and then you won't even be in Mexico.
So I just don't know
Mm-hmm.
my ignorance to this situation. I mean, I've seen that it's a legit crisis that's going
Love
on
that
down
you're
there
just
right now.
holding it now.
But I hate my mic right now, guys. I'm sorry. It's like it fell off and I can't get it to go back on right now, so I'm gonna have to fiddle with it later. But
It's easier if you take the
um,
base off of it and then
I
attach it
know I
and then set it
could.
in.
I know.
Anyway,
But I'm curious about what the federal government's plan for this situation is because I haven't
they
heard
were
any
just
answers
busing them
or
out of
any
Texas
subject
to
about it.
other states, is what they were doing originally.
Oh,
And then
really?
Texas was like, no, we're closing the border. We can't do this anymore. Like, it's become such an issue for them. Like, there's pictures, like, let's see if I can pull one up now of how many, like, in just that river spot um, that is where they were lined up. Oh, here's the river spot. I'll show you on this at least. In this one location where they're just walking across, and there was tons here, and there's other pictures. I don't know if there's any more here. Yeah, here's like stretched out. This was the bridge that they were living under. There's like 20,000 people living under this bridge, and we're just going back and forth to get supplies. And they were like,
Well, and the sad part too is like I've seen the pictures of like the children that are just getting left there without any parents.
right,
Um, and there's a huge at least from articles that I read. I did read one on NPR, and it was talking about the needs of a lot of the unaccompanied children, and that's out of all the things and out of all the issues, that's where I have the most kind of
yeah,
like
absolutely. A lot of this,
we got to
a lot
get
of
our
the
shit
pictures
together
from
for
under
these
that
kids.
bridge I've seen, it's mostly males. Like it's men
Yeah,
coming
but
from other
there's a lot
countries.
of kids too. There is a lot of children in that
Yeah.
area too. And those are the ones where we got to figure that we can't have
Yeah, I mean, you
abandoned
got to then
children
you have to
walking around.
decide, do we bring them in, because you can only bring in so many people before it starts to crash things here, and if you start bringing them in, then more people will bring them in, and it just creates a
Yeah,
cascading
yeah,
problem. So
true.
what they're doing, I think, is probably the best, is like saying, hey, we're going to fly you back if you don't go, and they're just rounding them up and shoving them back across the border, because they're like, we
Did they
need the,
start doing that?
hmm
Did they start flying them back?
I don't know. I think they threatened it, but they got, when they started threatening that, most of them moved out from under the bridge and went back into the Mexico area.
Hmm, gotcha.
So I mean, they were just
Um,
waiting to be picked up, because what was happening before is that the federal government was just sending buses down and picking people up, not vetting them, not checking IDs, not even for kids or anything like that, and just trucking them off in different states. Like
hmm,
that's not safe either.
no, it's not safe for those kiddos. Um, well, speaking of international drama, no drama. Um, I don't know how I've gotten kind of sucked into this subject, but it's something that I've just been fascinated by.
Oh yeah, this is
Is
fascinating.
the U.S., Great Britain, and Australia drama with France, and Australia had signed. It was like let me double check
90
here. I think it was
billion,
a
I think it was.
um it was within the billions. I can't remember
I
exactly
think it was
how
90
much. Let me see
billion
if
for the submarines.
was it 90? Okay.
I
Yeah,
believe
it was
so.
within the it was above, I believe, above 50 billion. Um, but it was a contract basically, and Australia had agreed to let the French build them diesel submarines. And at the time, when they had
No, they
signed the
weren't diesel. I
contract,
thought these were nuclear subs.
no, 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 no. Australia had signed an agreement with France
Okay.
to build diesel submarines for them.
Okay.
And France was in the process of starting to just kind of figure out how the infrastructure and how to build this, and it was like a big financial boon to France, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they needed it. Well, as tensions have been rising with China, Australia is concerned that the diesel submarines won't have sufficient range and depth and capabilities that they would have with a nuclear sub. Um, so Australia said, "Hey, listen, sorry, France, we're actually not going to go ahead with this $1 billion contract with you. The UK and the United States have the capacity to help build this and retrofit and
Hmm.
well just build new submarines for us that have nuclear capability because we're freaking out that China's over here and they're starting to encroach on territories and we have to have some kind of a little bit more long range and capacity." So they sent a message to France and said, "Hey, we're out." And then France is getting pissed and say, "Hey, you can't just back out. We signed an agreement about this," which I do understand that
Yeah.
situation. Like they
66
I'm sure
billion.
put 66 billion.
Yeah.
Thank you. So that's a strain on that relationship right now, and it's interesting because it's multifaceted and interesting because a now France is not only pissed at Australia, but they're really pissed at the United
They already
States
were. They pulled their
and
French ambassador from us,
pissed. Right, they pulled the French
which is the
ambassador
first
and
time
pissed
in
at
our
Great Britain.
in history that that's happened.
Right, which is interesting though because France and there was a summit that was supposed to happen with the EU, and the EU also canceled it out of frustration with America
Wow.
and with Great Britain. And so now there's talks of, well, why doesn't France? Basically, I didn't know this, but France has some type of colonies in Southeast Asia territories, still some type of colony, people, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it's called. But so France is saying, hey, we still need to have strength and structure there as well. So they don't want to have too much of a feud with the United States because they're concerned about China also. Um, but it's interesting because Great Britain, as they exited from the EU, has started to distance themselves a little bit more from that whole group. Now the EU is talking about forming its own military, like the EU military, basically, which is
Interesting.
fascinating, right? Which is a fascinating thing because we have NATO, right?
Right.
But the EU is now talking about like, should all of our countries form together to have like the EU sovereign, state military, um,
Whoa.
which would be a total power change and shift in our current world dynamics.
Yeah, it seems all kind of just like people are upset. Like they're just trying to make a point that isn't really. It's like it's more drama than it is actual anything because they would all have to work together if something happened. Like they're not gonna like join forces with China. They're all gonna join forces with each other, and they're not gonna like join with Russia or something. Although
I don't know, dude.
something I could
I
see
don't know.
is that like the U.S. sides with China and them side with Russia. Like who joins what enemy? That would be interesting. I don't
Ooh,
even want to
no.
think about that.
China would never. China would always join with Russia before the U.S. I think,
I don't know.
just out
Not
of
if they knew that they
proximity.
could take out that other. It would just depend. Like we sided with Russia when we probably shouldn't have, but we picked the lesser of two evils.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah,
It
yeah,
would be
yeah.
weird.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Who
I'm
knows?
just speculating. I
Who
don't
knows?
think that. I just, like, I wouldn't be shocked, I guess. It's like one of those things is like,
Right.
do you think it's going to happen? No, but would I be surprised? No.
Mm,
Like, not
no,
at all.
unfortunately, no. Unfortunately, no.
Unfortunately not.
Um. Well, I say we do some TILs and shower thoughts.
Cool. I have one
Um.
TIL.
Ooh, okay, go for it. Actually, I'll go for. Let me riddle off three
Okay.
because I have four. So today I
You're going
learned
bonkers on
that
TILs.
Swedish built cars like the Saab and Volvo are especially reinforced, particularly for the purpose of its occupants being safe from hitting moose
That makes sense.
because they're so prominent there. Today I learned that guava fruit has the highest protein content of any fruit. Guava.
Weird.
Fascinating. Had no idea.
I wonder how high it
Has
is.
it's 2.5 grams per 100 grams.
That's not very high, but okay.
But for fruit.
For fruit, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Today I learned that the British Army breaks step when crossing bridges.
Yes.
This is because in 1831, a suspension bridge collapsed from all the soldiers marching in unison.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
I was thinking probably it's not just the British Army that does that.
You do that no matter what. Like that's just smart
Yeah.
on a big bridge. But suspension bridges specifically do sway a lot. Like go look at the videos of. Have you ever seen the videos of the Tacoma Bridge, like in the Tacoma Narrows? Yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
yeah, that thing. It doesn't look
All right,
like it
hit me
should
with your
happen. Okay,
hit me
today I
with your
learned
tail.
about the Melon drop scam, a con that targeted Japanese tourists. Scammers would buy a watermelon for a low price and then bump into an Asian tourist and charge them about $100 for the broken melon. This is due to the higher fruit prices in Japan. And these days, the scam involves any broken item. But it's called the melon drop scam. Like,
Dirty.
hey, my melon.
No, that's punk. Punk moves.
Yeah.
All right, my last one, and this is one that I've kind of already knew, but I love it. I love mentioning because it's a fun
So
information.
this life I learned.
In life, I've learned that the anti-diabetic medication metformin is actually derived from French lilacs. In medieval times, French lilacs were used to treat the symptoms of a condition we know today as diabetes mellitus. So they actually had it as a medicine.
Right.
They didn't know how or why it worked, but it was used for symptoms consistent with diabetes back then. Kind of cool.
It's weird. I wonder how prevalent diabetes was. Because I know today it's because of just like our standard American diet.
It was probably mostly, it would
prone to it.
mostly been with the wealthy, I'm sure.
That's true. It could have been. Yeah, because
It
here
mostly
it's
probably
like
would have been a disease
how many
of luxury.
what percent do you think is pre-diabetic at least in the United States?
Oh, pre-diabetic?
Like on the edge.
You want to talk about pre-diabetic?
I think it's 60%.
I would wager 40. No, I would wager pre-diabetic. Because if it's so you're excluding diabetic.
No, including diabetic. So pre-diabetic on.
Diabetic and pre-diabetic. Yeah, you're looking at. Unfortunately, I don't know. I would say probably. It probably actually is probably more like 40%.
Last I heard, it was between 40 and. I mean, it's hard to tell. Like 40 to 60, rough guesses.
I'd probably say 40.
But yeah, it's just due to our
maybe 50
stupid diet where we tell everyone that you should eat grains and vegetable oil, which comes from wheat, is better for you.
Have some more high. Just eat some corn. High fructose corn.
Corn, the worthless thing to grow.
All right, shower thoughts.
How
many you got?
I have 4.
I got Quattro. You go first.
Okay. As soon as garbage trucks start creeping around silently after being converted all to electric, a lot of us are screwed.
It's so true. It's so true. That's happened to me a handful of times for sure. For sure. This is something that also has happened to me multiple times. When someone walks into your room, they make trillions of atoms move. Those tiny things that you can't see are enough to let you feel someone disturbing your area and alerting you to their presence. Like, I mean, we've all had situations where we don't see them, we don't hear them, but we feel it.
I bet it's in the quadrillions.
Yeah, trillions of trillions. Yeah.
Yeah. That's weird. Because you can definitely feel it. It's super weird.
You can feel it. There's a sense, and you want to say it's like a spiritual sense, but really it's like, well, maybe it's actually a legit physiological response to
well,
atoms
I mean, everything's
in that area.
They're moving gases around. That's what's going on.
Well, yeah, some people move a lot of gas.
That's
around.
true. Some people bring extra, and so the room expands when they get there. But the universe is expanding. It's weird that we can even feel it. Okay, buying non-alcoholic.
40% of Americans are.
Yeah, it's true. Pre-diabetic. Buying non-alcoholic beer gives off the impression of having a drinking problem more than buying regular beer.
Very true. That's a fascinating point. I love that. That's a good one. Nothing is on fire. It's fire that is on things.
It's true.
Kind of cool.
It's inflamed, which is what would be like the proper way to say it.
Could be both. Yeah.
No, it can't be on fire.
So fire can be on things.
Yes, but the object is inflamed. That's what I'm saying. Instead of on fire.
Yeah. Both of those terms.
Yes.
Fire on things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dinosaur chicken nuggets are the ultimate FU. We take their descendants and turn them to mush shaped like their ancestors, and then we eat them.
That's so good. That's hilarious. That's amazing. Saying to a billionaire, "You look like $1,000,000," is probably an insult to them.
Man, unless they want to look more normal.
Most billionaires want to be billionaires.
Want to be more
probably.
normal. I'd want to be more normal.
You know what? I want to look. I want to be less wealthy. Let me be that way.
Yeah. If you can't select 0 stars, then the rating of 5 stars is actually 4 stars, because everyone gets 1 by default.
True. That's a good point. Yeah, that annoys me. Yeah, that's true. All right, my last shower thought. And this is something I literally had just thought about today when I was sitting in the living room. I think I was
eating mandrakes.
I think I was eating hummus and potato chips, I think. But if spiders
high protein fruit
had wings, would it make them cuter?
No.
Or more terrifying?
Horrifying. I don't like it. Like, especially since so many of them are like, they could like bite you, and that's bad. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because then it's like a bee. A bee isn't terrifying because it's flying. It's because its ability to get to you with its stinger is so much greater. It's like, I'm not super afraid of a scorpion unless it's in my shoe and very close to me. But a flying scorpion would be...
They don't. Yeah.
I mean, a flying scorpion would be like a bird that was poisonous. Like, that's...
Right. That's terrifying. Okay, my last question for you, for everybody out there. Mm-hmm. If you have any thoughts, let us know, please. This is a very important question.
Okay.
And then we're going to wrap it up for the night. Would you rather cure cancer, be able to cure cancer, prove aliens are real, or that ghosts are real?
It's a tough question.
Really, only the first two I feel like are the most, for me.
I don't think it's tough, because legitimately, I think that cancer wouldn't be as big of a problem if we didn't have the food crisis that we have. I think it's caused a lot by that. In fact, I think that data shows that at least half would be cut down if we didn't eat so shitty.
Yeah, that could be.
Because,
or you can make the argument. If somehow we got to a situation where we could prove that aliens are real, perhaps they would have the technological advancement.
I'd thought about that,
to cure cancer.
But just because I prove them real doesn't mean they're going to help us.
True.
Like, I could prove them real and we still just don't get to be with them.
Right.
You know, it may not benefit us in any way, but maybe a half and half. Like, I prove they're real, so now we can communicate with them and they can help us with the other half. But at the same time, we all start eating better so that we stop creating damaged cells in our body that decide not to die when they're supposed to via
mutate,
autophagy.
and you have this genetic.
They just stay alive, and they don't like, I don't want to die. I want to keep going. And then it's like, instead, I'm going to kill you.
So what would you pick? Which one would you pick?
I would pick the aliens due to that.
Fascinating. I've decided, I think I would probably, I want the aliens to be real out of everything there the most probably, but I would probably pick cure cancer just because I can't imagine if my kid had cancer and I couldn't fix it. That would be like, I don't care. I mean, I don't care if aliens are real. I have to fix my kid. That's it.
You think that now.
It's selfish.
But then
selfish.
We don't know aliens exist, and you're selfish
We
to
don't
all
know. We'll
mankind
have to see. I
because of it.
know that's so true. It's a selfish. I would do anything and everything.
Not a
Yeah.
given choice, but my right-in choice is Alzheimer's and dementia. Yeah, I would say that is. There's a lot of studies now on that as well that deal with like our lack of fat in our diet. There's a
Well,
fascinating study
another
from a
thing going
lady
to
who
diet.
like fixed her husband, like brought him back to
This
normal.
is a interesting study for diet for y'all out there with pertaining to dementia. The country with the lowest per capita, one of or at the lowest is India
Hmm.
for dementia, and they haven't nailed down exactly why that is, but they have a huge correlation, I believe, with the amount of curry that they eat.
That could be
So they
it.
believe there's actually
There's
a
also
direct correlation with curry.
there's a gene that's being studied right now that they can actually test you for, and if you have that like genetic disposition, then adding like coconut fats actually has shown in 50% of people so far tested can change it, which is pretty wild to think.
That's cool.
There's
So go eat some coconut and curry,
a lady
guys.
who's a
Mix a
doctor
little bit
who
of
like
coconut oil with some curry,
she
guys.
tested it on her husband and it was bananas. It sounded very messy because of how much coconut oil she was giving the dude. I was like, oh my
That
gosh,
poor dude was pooping
that
like a
guy had to
madman.
been running to the bathroom so much.
Yeah.
Like it was like she would give him like 9 tablespoons in the morning or something.
Oh
But
my
he
gosh.
was nonverbal, and by the end, like now, at least last I heard a couple years ago, he goes with her on tour and gives speeches,
That's crazy. That's wild.
which is just
Well,
insane.
guys, we appreciate y'all. We hope you had a fantastic week. Debbie, thank you for your input, and we're glad that you mentioned Alzheimer's and dementia. And everybody out there, take care of yourself, take care of your family. Have a fantastic week. We appreciate
Like,
y'all.
follow, and
Love
share us.
y'all. Stay classy. Hit
San
that little alert
Diego.
button. Peace out,
See you
our friends.
guys.